a lot of Bitcoiners are like, well, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a programmer, my options are limited, and I disagree on that. If you've got a passion and if you've got the desire to tackle what you find the most fascinating and interesting, whether it be mining, lightning, wallets, I don't know, I can think of many merch, like 3D printing, t-shirts, design, whatever you got, like you can make something out of it.
Welcome to the Builders in Bitcoin podcast, a podcast about the people who bring Bitcoin to life. I'm your host, Rod, and I go by the handle BitKite on Twitter. I'm grateful to have had the chance to chat with Nate, North Houston Bitcoin Club co-organizer and man of many hats at Voltage. In this episode, we discuss and dig into Nate's journey into Bitcoin and his role at Voltage, tips for maximizing the impact of your Lightning node, why Nate started a second Houston-based meetup, and a lot more. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you will too. So let's just jump right in. Nate, welcome to Nashville, Tennessee. How the heck are you?
I am great. I'm so happy to be here. It's a beautiful September day in Nashville at Bitcoin Park. I don't think I'd rather be anywhere else.
Oh man, thank you for the kind words. This is your first time in Nashville?
I've driven through. I've did a sort of like a little Civil War tour down in Franklin, but I've never been to like Nashville proper.
When was that?
2 years ago
No
on
way.
a road trip. Yeah.
Oh, with friends, family?
Oh yeah, with my wife. Yeah, just
Okay.
my wife and I.
That's cool. I'm going to take that and talk about that off the record because I am very interested in these type of historical tours, especially around Nashville and the greater Nashville
There's a lot
area.
of history here.
Oh man,
It's
yeah,
insane.
for sure. And now I'm going to dox myself a little bit, but I have 3 kids. Ever since we chatted, I think back in the day, maybe the first kid was born. Now I have 3 and the 4th on the way.
Damn.
So yeah, damn is right, man. Damn is right.
I mean, I've still just got the one.
Oh really?
So,
Okay. Rock on. Hey, one's better than 0, I think.
yeah.
Well, welcome back to Nashville. And I told you I was not trying to blow smoke up your you-know-what when I said you're one of the guests on, especially the Builders in Bitcoin podcast, which I'm focused on helping tell the stories of folks that are bringing Bitcoin to life. And I've been following you on Twitter. We've had some Twitter DMs, and you are one of those people. And I want to start with talking about your story, and then I want to selfishly get into the thing I want to talk about the most, which I'm going to table that for those folks so they listen to the podcast and we'll hear about it later on. But you've only been working in Bitcoin now, how many years?
1
year.
We just crossed the 1 year like a week ago.
Congratulations. And he's also known as Nate from Voltage, among a number of different things. But you've been in Bitcoin for a number of years. And so I for those folks that are, working regular jobs that are always thinking about, hey, I want to go and tap into and work at a Bitcoin focused company. Can you share your experience in that whole process?
Sure. It's really amazing trying to think back on it. So I worked in aviation airline operations for almost 7 years. And that was my first big break out of college. And I knew about Bitcoin. I watched Bitcoin. I never got to buy any Bitcoin because I did not have the money to buy Bitcoin until, sort of my big break sort of. But when that happened, that's when Mt. Gox happened. And then I went back on the fence and watched a little bit, and I told myself, you know what? I think if Bitcoin recovers from this, we'll really, really dive in. And so I didn't dive in like right after that. That would have been awesome. I waited a little bit longer than I should have, but I eventually started stacking sats and learning as much as I could.
Yeah, and at the time I was working at a Bitcoin company, and you reached out and said, "Hey, if there are any opportunities or any tips," and I'm just an asshole, and I didn't really engage as much as I should have. But you were super persistent and consistent across the board. And then I think you nailed this, and I'll let you take this, but you concentrated on Lightning, right? And how do
Right.
you think it's beneficial for folks that are looking to get into Bitcoin to concentrate in one area, or do you think just to dabble in a lot of areas?
Yeah, so I knew about the Lightning Network. So this was in 2018. I was working as much overtime as possible and stacking as much sats as possible because I saw this as the opportunity in 2017 that I missed, like that whole year. But at the same time, I being obsessed with price just felt like a waste of time. I knew what was going to happen. I was already convicted, right? So what do I need to do? And it was run a node. Okay, went to Reddit, whatever. I don't think I was not on Twitter actually. And I forget exactly who pointed it out, but I learned about the Staticus Raspberry Bolt, which caught my attention because it had a Bitcoin node, which is what I wanted at the time, but also had this thing called the Lightning Network on it too. And I was like, great, I get to have both. This sounds
Yeah.
fantastic. And this was before my node and Umbrel and those really cool user friendly things. Now, and Staticus wrote this really amazing guide with screenshots, little videos, and all the commands you need to type into your Linux terminal on your Raspberry Pi to not only install the nodes and stuff, but how to configure your firewall, how to configure your network. And I had no idea what I was doing. That was my first experience with Linux. And I had to reformat that Raspberry Pi probably like 5 times because I reached a point where I'm like, what I typed in isn't showing what it should show. And I have no idea how to do it right. So I was just like, okay, restart,
Yeah.
do it again. And eventually I got it working. And that was my first node. And I joined the L&D Slack, asked a bunch of questions there. The devs at Lightning Labs were really excited for people, running their software when it was basically brand new in late 2018. And yeah, and it was all command line. I remember attaching the Willow Burn came out with the Joule extension.
That's right.
And for the first time, I could actually see, and it was like a user interface for the node. And up till then, like for a few months, I was just doing command line, right? And command line's magical. Like I bought the stickers off of the Blockstream store. Like that was the first time me actually using the node. But being able to see sort of like a wallet of it was just amazing. And then I just started playing with everything I could find. Eclair from Async,
Mhm.
all those sorts of things.
Yeah, so, by the way, just to paint a little bit of a picture, this is 2018. You're still working your,
Mhm.
job. You're working overtime, I remember this, but you're like, "Hey, man, sorry I didn't get back to you 36 hours later," or something. You're like, "I did 2 doubles," or something like that. Something kinda crazy. And, kid, obviously, but
Yeah, so the time frame's a little bit weird on that. So like 2018, this was like 2019, like that Christmas, 2018 to
yeah,
2019, sort of that Christmas. It wasn't until March of 2021 that I had a bunch of free time and I've learned a lot. And there's so many people on Twitter. I was on Twitter at that point saying, I want to run a lightning node. I want to do this. I want to do this. And this is when Pleb Lab was starting. So I was on Clubhouse every night, uh, late nights with people because I was on night duty because my baby, was sleeping. I was in the other room just talking to Bitcoiners all night about Lightning and helping Pleb Lab with P and D++ and Dusty and everyone from that group.
plebnet, you think, right?
Plebnet,
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
plebnet, yeah, yeah.
I did say Pleb Lab,
Yeah,
sorry.
yes.
Plebnet. So yeah, and then I also did so on Calendly, which is this cool website where people can just book times with
Yep.
you and auto do like Google Meets or whatever. Said, hey, on Twitter, I must have had a few thousand followers on Twitter at this point. I was just kind of like, if anyone wants to like run a node or has questions, I'm game to talk about it because my passion for it never went away. I just think it's the coolest thing that you can pay someone across the world instantly for less than a penny with no chargebacks and like all this stuff. Like it's just thinking about it now, it still just gets me like hyped up. I just think it's the coolest thing ever. So I wanted to help spread that knowledge.
It's pretty magical. But even backing up, like, to
Yeah.
get to that, like, knowledge base of becoming confident enough to create a Calendly to say, "Hey, I think I'm confident enough to actually take this knowledge and teach others." You were working, I want people
Mhm.
to realize this, like, when they're working on, like, a hard job and a lot of hours and they have family responsibilities, like, making that time and help me guide me on this, like, that 1 hour, 2 hours of just digging in, chewing glass, like learning how to do the command line.
Mm.
Um, I got to give you kudos, man. That was proof of work in the sense that you took the time over those year period of time or years and to get to that point, so when the opportunity came and the tooling got better, and then, you can say, "Hey, I'll do lightning consulting for folks on their notes." And then how did that turn out?
I had so yeah, it was a period of probably 7 or 8 weeks, maybe a little bit less than that, around that, until I had to go back to work because I only did it when I had time off of work because my baby was born.
Yep.
And it took off. I probably talked to definitely over 50 people, probably not as many as 100. There was no real financial incentive. However, after each one, I emailed my BTC Pay server donation link to people to say, hey, feel free to toss me some sats or
Yeah.
whatever. And some people were actually really generous, which I really appreciated. And yeah, and then I had to go back to work and it just kind of
The regular job, right?
yes,
Yep.
yeah, and, so I sort of I still participated, in the community and everything,
Mhm.
but the consulting part kind of fell off, after that just because I couldn't keep up with it.
And then how did you find Voltage?
Yeah, so Graham, who's the CEO, you'll he's got this funny little icon of, like, this cartoon baseball player
Okay.
on his, like, Slack and all these things. It's from, like, this old video game or something where these little kids are playing baseball, but I always noticed him on the L&D Slack. I didn't know who it was, but he was always on there when I was on there talking. I never really actually don't think I conversed with him. But in August of 2021, he's been running Voltage, for almost a year. He did, the first like, this is real proof of work. He wanted to start a company, but he wanted to build out to make sure his idea worked first before going and hiring and doing all this stuff. So he was like, "All right, you know what? People are using this and I need a guy to do like education and support because I am so sick of answering emails basically and which is great." And so according to him, he tried to contact me. I didn't follow him on Twitter. He tried to contact me on Twitter, tried to contact me on all these avenues. And then I finally noticed
Big timer over here,
yeah, I finally noticed like a week later a DM on Slack on the L&D Slack where he was like, "Yo, I'm trying to get a hold of you." And I'm like, "Oh, what's up, man?" He's like, "Oh,
I
you
wanna
got
give you
time?"
a job, man.
Yeah, he's like, "You got time to talk?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So we talked, and and he offered me a job, and Bitcoin at that point, freed my family enough financially that it was worth the career change risk, so to say. If I didn't have that financial safety net, I couldn't have done it. So I talked to my wife. I said, "Hey, we have this opportunity to, unlock our geographical location, unlock just so many different things that you could think of." And so she was like, she didn't even really hesitate. I love my wife. So she was just like, "Yeah, let's do it. If you think you can do it, let's do it."
And the rest is
And
history.
yeah, yeah,
And
it's
next
great.
thing you know, you move and you're starting a, Bitcoin meetup in your new city, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We could get into that.
Yeah, definitely.
But
We'll
yeah,
we'll we'll table that for so for the folks that don't know, you're at now at what is Voltage?
sure. Great. Yeah. So Graham figured that there was a market for Lightning nodes, maybe not immediately right now, but there's going to be a market for businesses that want to use Lightning and have all the power of running a Lightning node without all of the headaches of power outages, internet outages.
Raspberry Pi, SD
Right.
card
You
burning
don't want
up,
an
yeah.
enterprise payment backend, whatever, blowing out because this tiny little fan got too much dust in it, right? So he developed a way to basically isolate node instances in a cloud-based infrastructure that is still non-custodial. It's still client-side encrypted. So even though Voltage knows that a node is running, you don't know what payments you're doing. You don't know what like the total capacity of the node. You don't know which side owns that. It's just like if you have a node at home. Like if you tell somebody what your pub key is, they can go to Amboss or something and see all your public channels and see what your total capacity and everything is. But you can't see your payments or what you're doing with it. So yeah. And we've been building and growing ever since. So I guess that's the quick rundown.
Heck yeah, and so your role there is education and support?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, he hired me to write articles, do some educational stuff, build out the documents, the documentations of guides and things. So like I wrote out a Thunder Hub guide, BTC Pay Server guide, just quick start guides to because diving in. So we run a BTC Pay Server is also an option on Voltage. So just writing out these guides, some articles, and then also building out our sort of support desk ticketing system, which I'm still solely responsible for,
Wow.
but it's still a lot of fun. And I
Yeah.
get to talk to people all over the world, people that are like, "Hey, I want to run a Lightning node because I want to sell these, I don't know, dresses that I'm making and or to like other countries, but it's really, really hard. I want to do Bitcoin, help me get set up." I do a lot of those kind of calls.
Random. That's a really cool business or use case. What's another like crazy use case on a support call or support ticket you've gotten? Out of
So
curiosity.
no, it's very interesting. Yeah, a lot of them are people that just want to know what we do and what we can offer. We do a lot of those kind of calls, but people that are already there, they're like, "All right, how do I manage my channel?" So we have Thunder Hub built in, which is like the premier node management software that the folks at Amboss have built out, and that's been around for a while. So we have that built into Voltage. So people say, "All right, I got my Voltage node. Now what do I do?" And it's like, okay, well, here's the guides and stuff. But like some people like just want this one-on-one sort of like, let's talk about it. And the thing about running a Lightning node is people can run a Lightning node for many different reasons. People could run it because they are traveling a lot and they actually want to just spend out of their own node without having to worry about their Raspberry Pi at home base being shut down. Some people want to run it in a merchant capacity. Some people want to run full blown routing nodes with their company as their alias for a marketing thing. So I talk to people about all those different sort of uh, use cases with their nodes, and some people just want to run it for. There might be developers testing out apps and integrating with a voltage lightning node is much less of a headache than trying to integrate with one that you're running on, a hardware that you run because we give you all the API. Still have all the API access. You still have everything that you would do as if you're running your own node. So it's just less of a headache for developers too.
I want to just close on this because I'm just from a business side. I'm curious. Like, how do you guys make money then?
Yeah. So a couple different ways. We have our so the Lightning nodes themselves, we charge per hour, which is really, really cool. It's like a credit-based system, meaning that you basically load up your account and then it just slowly ticks away every hour. This is cool because if a dev wants to just spool up a node for a couple hours, or you want to do like a quick crowd fund, like a Blitz crowd fund or something, you could just spool up a node and then shut it down. And then that's like 4 cents an hour, which comes out to like $35 a month. BTC Pay Server. But what we're really trying to do is help the enterprises develop Lightning infrastructure. If not a lot of Bitcoiners are on LinkedIn, but there's a couple of people that are. I'm not one of them, but there are there are enterprise executives of industries that Lightning is on their radar, and
Really?
and they are finding voltage. And we are talking to these people. It's still early talks, and I can't really mention any specifics, but it's some of the people that we talked to is amazing so far. So we are Lightning Network is on the radar out there. I've seen it myself.
Yeah, I firmly believe this, which is you look at the top 500 or the Fortune 500 companies, right? I think there is a Bitcoiner at at least one Bitcoiner at each one of those companies. And that person, whether they're in the mailroom or a C-suite executive, is just constantly chirping.
Yep.
And like, hey, come to this meetup. Or, hey, why are we adopting the Lightning Network? Why aren't we mining with all this power we have? And, why are we mining?
So to bring that point home though about how do we make money, a lot of it is actually coming from our we have a professional node set up where you get a Bitcoin Core node, a Lightning node, and that's a lot more because of the data involved. Plus, we have corporate training, which I do if a company wants me to train one of their employees to manage the node. And we also have something called professional services, which is if they just want us to do it for them, they sign a contract, and now whatever their goal is, uh, it's basically just me at this point manages that, and we charge quite a bit per hour for that service. But
Great.
depending on the enterprise, they don't want to spend money on training people or hiring people, so But the thing is, that's a temporary thing. Voltage's long-term business is automation,
Mhm.
and we are developing proprietary tools that are really, really going to help liquidity automation here soon. So stay tuned for that. We announced a couple things in Miami this year. That's going to be sort of phase one of that. We also started this. You get a 500,000 sats of inbound liquidity just for starting a node with us.
Really?
And it's really cool because it's just a one button thing. You just start up a node and then you click, hey, you want 500,000 sat inbound? Sure. Click the button and you get that, which is really, really great because your node isn't seen on the network until you have a channel open. So why not get you that channel right at the
Yeah, and
beginning?
there's no cost associated with that. It's just as part
Right.
of the subscription or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, so going back to the LinkedIn side and going back to the enterprise side,
Hmm.
and so great explanation of the business model. I think you're spot on. I think the tooling, and I've done now like you're the fourth podcast since there's so many great people in town. The tooling has gotten so much better since when we were. Remember the lightning torch back in
Hmm.
2017, 2018?
Hmm.
I mean, when we you 90+% of the folks were doing command line. I think Wallet
Hmm.
Satoshi was the only mobile app at the time, and maybe they were there. Maybe Blue Wallet it was, and I'm mixing them
Yeah,
up.
for custodial, I think so.
Yeah.
Like I know eClear was around, but yeah.
But anyways, I digress because like to fast forward to today and all the options to today. If you told
Hmm.
Rod and Nate like 3-4 years ago that like literally you just go in the app store and you download it's called a Bitcoin wallet. You don't really they don't really bifurcate, or you bifurcate a little bit between Bitcoin and Lightning, but it's pretty seamless-ish for the most part when you're using a Moon or even a Blue Wallet or
Right.
and even Strike to a degree, even though that's full custodial KYC. I say all that is because I truly believe these companies are like another pillar that's just gonna, or another domino that's just gonna fall down, and you're gonna see whether it is NCR that truly turns on and accepts Bitcoin, or at the point of sale system, or you see a
Yeah.
business that has a business incentive to run a voltage node and start accepting Bitcoin via the Lightning Network and so on. I see this sooner than later. And I'm not going to ask you if you're going to see for your thoughts because you have much more information than I do. But I think when you blink twice if a big Fortune 500 company is going to be accepting Lightning in the next
Uh,
1 month.
uh, I there's a possibility, but I cannot confirm that
Nor
at
deny.
all. But yeah.
All good. So one area, so you're doing the consulting side and which is great. And so I want to go either two areas I definitely want to touch on. One is on the Bitcoin Park side here if we were starting up a node. But before I go there, one area that I'm fascinated by, and you tweet a lot or a good amount about this, and I feel like I don't know who else is tweeting much about this, but yield on Lightning. And I don't know if that's the
Okay.
right way of explaining it
Sure.
or phrasing it up, but you're a big proponent of earning on Lightning. And then maybe share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so
Like, for
no,
example, let me
there's a lot
actually
to start
yeah, and
to
let me tee
yeah.
it up even a little bit more because one of the areas where, I love Bitcoin mining, do this podcast,
Yep.
work here at Bitcoin Park, do a number of other things in Bitcoin, time, capital, reputation, all in on Bitcoin. One of the things that I talk like one of my new friends ask me about is like, well,
Mhm.
how could I earn interest or yield on my Bitcoin? I'm like, no, you just buy and hold Bitcoin. There's a finite amount of Bitcoin as part of your portfolio or your investment strategy. That's what you do. Yet, if you follow you on Twitter, you're like, hey, you can actually earn interest or yield on
Mhm.
your Bitcoin in a safe-ish manner
Yeah.
by utilizing the Lightning Network.
Right. So, yeah. So, one of the core incentive components of running a Lightning node and the Lightning network in general is that the node runners are trying to route other people's payments, and this is an open market because the folks trying to make the payments, they don't want to pay a lot of fees, but at the same time, so the Lightning Network uses hops, right? So like a channel hop system. So you don't have to have a channel to the person you're paying as long as you have a route to them, which the Lightning Network figures out. every hop gets to decide if they want to take a little bit off the top for the service of forwarding that payment along the network. And a payment could have multiple options to get to the final destination. And through a series of protocol parameters, it's kind of complicated or whatever. You could define your own route if you want to, but just the automation component is going to try to find the most reliable, historically proficient, and cheapest route and fastest route to the final destination. So one of the big challenges at the beginning of, and I mean, still now if you're trying to do this, but is how do I run the node that is forwarding the most payments so I can earn the most fees, routing fees? And it's really hard because it's really, really competitive. And a lot of folks back in the day, what we did was we would open up really big channels to final destinations, such as big merchants like Bitrefill or the Loop node from Lightning Labs, and put like more than 0.5% fee on it, which is actually a lot because a lot of folks were using these services. So if you point your liquidity towards where the network wants to go, you can charge a premium for this. Well, everyone, picked up on this and drove the fee market down on a lot of these places. So trying to find your little niche that no one else knows about to direct liquidity is really, 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 really hard. So a couple years ago, Lightning Labs came out with Lightning Pool, which is a blind auction for folks who have liquidity on their Lightning node, and because their node is operating really well, it's well connected, has good uptime, good history and stuff. That's a channel from that node is going to have more value than a node that just has like 3 channels and started a month ago. As a merchant, you don't want a channel from that bad node. You want a channel from the good one. So why not pay for it then, right? So this marketplace is really cool. So like if you want to sell the liquidity, meaning, pay me and I'll open up a channel to you for a time frame, pay me this much percent and it is what it is. And then the person trying to buy it, they would put in their offer. And the thing about Lightning Pool is it's a blind marketplace. So you don't know who you're going to get a channel from. You're relying on Lightning Labs' sort of ranking information to determine if
Is this the boss score?
yeah, basically that's how it started. But yeah, which is still around, but and actually still pretty useful. But yeah, so I use that a lot. It was really, really popular, I think, when it came out. I think there was a lot of volume. But recently, our good friend Tony at Amboss, who's a complete wizard, and Justifer built out this thing called Magma, which allows any implementation. You could be running Core Lightning, you could be running LND, whatever, to offer liquidity in the same way, but it's more of a shopping experience now. So if you're looking to buy liquidity, you can go look at the offer board and filter it out. You can say, I only want to pay this amount. I want this. I want, 5 million sats, and I only want to pay this, whatever. And then it'll show you. And then you could be like, cool, I will buy from them. And then there's this really, in my opinion, really intuitive way to use HODL invoices. So it's really, really cool. So like you put up an order. So if you're selling, you'd say, I've got a whole Bitcoin. I will sell channels in 5 to 20 million increments for 0.03% for 30 days, right? And you just put it out there. You attach your Telegram to this service, and when somebody clicks buy on that, you get a Telegram alert saying, hey, someone wants to buy an X size channel from you. Cool. That tells you to get back on the Amboss site and upload a invoice for the fee amount for that channel. You do that, then they get an alert that they pay the invoice, and then you get a thing saying, cool, the invoice is paid, open up that channel now. You open up the channel to them, and then you paste in the TX ID, the transaction ID of that channel open to Amboss so they can monitor it. And then after that is confirmed and the channel ID is confirmed, they release the fee that was paid. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. If I was like, I'm like 90% sure.
Dang.
But I've done this a bunch, but like trying to run it through with my head. Anyway, it's like this little back and forth process, and then boom, the channel's open. And the thing is too is Amboss monitors the channel.
It's like an escrow account.
Right. The HODL invoices are like that. Yep. And then they monitor it for that time frame that you promise, and also you promise not to raise your fees above a point.
Hmm.
And this is all public information that Amboss can monitor. Anybody can monitor, because if you change your fees, you gossip that to the rest of the network. So they're monitoring that. And if you mess up, if you say, I promise not to go above 0.01% and you put it up to 0.02, you're instantly, not instantly, but you're pretty quickly, you're going to get a Telegram message that says, hey, you better turn that back or you're going to be nicked on the Amboss like not user, but like reputation.
Yep.
So it's a lot of fun. And that whole marketplace has been hopping. And it's so basically, if you want to sell on these marketplaces, though, you have to build out a node that has decent node balance
Mhm.
of inbound and outbound. Because if you're a node with just 3 channels and you want to sell some channels, people aren't going to buy any channels from you.
What would you say is a decent balance for and I think you
Yeah.
and by the way, I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but I think you were saying something like, "I can earn 1% on Lightning." Or did I
So
mistake
the
that?
average APR last time I checked on Magma was around 3%. Now,
Tom, let's get that node set up. Let's go.
but the but
Let's
the th-
you take good notes
but
here.
just keep in mind that a lot of these contracts aren't for full years, right? So if you're only selling it for 30 days, you divide that 3% out by 12, and that's what you're getting paid for
Sure.
those 30 days. But that's still
But
really,
that's
really
APR in
interesting.
general, annual percentage rate
And
or
if you're buying, you get to see, if you find a deal that you like, it'll say this node that you're looking at buying from has done 22 like successful
Mhm.
contracts or something. So you're like, awesome. So like when you're first starting out, it may be a good idea to set your fee rates really, really low to help build out that trust, right? And as you build that out, you could charge more of a premium over time because you're one of the big sellers now, or the most trusted, respected sellers that don't have any nicks in in your promises or whatever. And what another cool thing is Amboss sort of gamifies it and gives you little tags. So if you're really quick at fast responding, you'll get a little tag that says
I love
fastest
it.
next to your thing.
I
So
love
like
that.
it's really cool.
So, real quick, one random question, and then I wanna go into the Bitcoin Park side, which is zero fee routing.
Yeah.
Any perspective on that?
So
Not to put you on the hot
no,
spot or
I've
anything.
got a lot of thoughts. I think so the zero fee routing concept is great because they're banking on selling channels. So the zero fee routing node has a website that you go to buy liquidity from them. And you buy from them, it's like paying your fees up front, really. So it's zero fee routing, but it's not zero fee channels per se. So you buy the channel, you pay one flat fee, and then now all your routing through them they don't charge anything. So they're instead of collecting routing fees, they're collecting fees from the channel from the people that want channels from them. So depending on your incentives on that, you can go that route. I think it's a great idea. It's a good way to incentivize people to buy channels from you.
So, there was Nate, then there was Nate from Voltage, and now let's just make, a new Nate, and let's call him Nate from Bitcoin Park.
Mm.
And Nate from Bitcoin Park, is here in Nashville, Tennessee, or anywhere, actually. It doesn't need to be, physically here. And we want to spin up our own node.
Hmm.
So, Stefan had a great, podcast, with, the different I think it was with Catan and saying, like, running a node, on a Raspberry Pi, that's just, like, not, optimal. It's good for, like, just experimenting, but not for serious
Sure.
stuff. So, you're here at Bitcoin Park, Nate. We got a decent campus here, decent brand, decent exposure. How would you go about spinning up a world-class node?
Yeah. Awesome. Um, just use
Ask
voltage. No,
asking
I'm
for
just
a
kidding.
friend. No, oh, yeah, well, so look, okay,
Yeah,
there's
I
use
understand.
voltage, I'm cool, like, do that, but let's say if we're spinning it up from scratch.
Yeah, so my first node was that Raspberry Pi, and it did not survive. Um, a story happened. I'm not going to say it, but
Uh,
um,
we love stories here
I
on
had the
Gold.
recovery thing set up, but
That's right.
but but there's still channels that still haven't been force closed that I can't trigger anymore because I did not save the static channel backup file. I only had the seed words. So I don't think I'm ever gonna get back that. I think it was like 7 or 8 million sats, something like that.
Dagger.
But that motivated me to, I've been building computers since I was a teenager. Like, I'm a big PC gamer and stuff. So I
Oh, cool.
decided to build a micro ATX computer with like $500 worth of parts and put Ubuntu on it. And that became my node. So I would recommend something like that. Like, build your own little mini ITX computer. It's really, really fun. Um, Especially like the form factor. So it's like you buy a processor and the heatsink comes with this big fan, but the big fan doesn't fit into your case because you're trying to build this, low form factor computer. So you have to buy this other fan that's like thinner and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. But anyway, definitely don't do a Raspberry Pi. Definitely do at least an actual computer
Yep.
with some sort of Linux distribution on it. And as far as strategy goes, if you already have a brand of some kind, you're way ahead of someone who is trying to do it from scratch anonymously because you likely have some sort of following and you can say, hey, this is the
XYZ.
Bitcoin Park node,
Yeah.
and we are going to be using this node. Like, you gotta give a little something on top. You say, like, we're gonna be using this node to process payments for like drinks and stuff on our BTC Pay server up in the lounge. So, like, if you open up a channel with us,
Mhm.
you'll get some traffic. That's a good way to get some inbound liquidity on that. And then as far as providing liquidity back to the network, uh, I mean, if you're gonna do world class, I would shoot for at least 50 channels, centrality of over 90 percentile, which centrality is sort of a new thing, but it's a goal that is so centrality is a percentile based metric that is sort of your reach to the wider network. And there are really, really cool tools out there that say you open up 10 or 15 channels and you can run a tool that's spits out. There's one called L&D Pi tools, like L&D Python tools, which is a script where you could say, show me public keys out there that if I open up channels with them, that I get like a really good reach to the network and it'll spit them out. So you have like you have an easy way to be like, okay, I'm gonna open up a channel with them and stuff rather than just throwing it out there randomly. So I teach people how to use that. And then you just build that out, centrality and getting inbound, and then you climb the ranks slowly but surely.
This is what hustle and reputation are 2 words that, come to mind when you're explaining all this stuff. The hustle in terms of following up with people and, saying, "Hey, let's open up a channel," or maybe paying
Right.
them to open up a channel, and just doing that follow-up and, putting a list together and keeping it. But then the reputation to keep the channel open and being online and being
Right.
get the badge of honor from Amboss of fastest and all these other
I,
things.
I wanna I wanna say too that for the plebs, for the normal folks listening that want to start a light, don't think that you have to have a lot of capital to get started. I sure as heck didn't. And one of the really cool things about it is a lot of people are worried about channel rebalances and stuff. Don't even worry about any of that. Uh, I- I'd like to. You can have a low time preference routing node where you don't have to bootstrap the whole darn thing in a month. You can do it over a year. For example, you could just open up channels to nodes to other peers, and instead of like having to go to Magma to buy inbound liquidity or whatever, you can go to Bitrefill and buy an Amazon gift card, and now you transfer that liquidity from your outbound to your inbound side, and now you're slowly going to get this inbound because you're actually spending some of this Bitcoin. You can spend and replace if you want to or whatever, but like once you get, I mean, maybe 10 to 15 channels with at least the ratio of at least 30% of it being inbound, I think that's good enough to go to Amboss and say, "Hey, as you need that outbound to, like, buy more stuff or whatever, say, hey, put up a sell order,' and that's all you gotta do." And it's all about time preference on that. So if there's the low time preference routing node is definitely possible. So, just wanted to give something for the, average Bitcoiner out there to just don't worry about, like, all this talk you hear about, "Oh, I gotta rebalance and blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
It's not necessary.
Going back to just our journey, like, classes like, I hate using the word class, but like I just got into it in, let's say 2017, 2018, or whatever it was. And again, I'm so fascinated by the tooling that has uh, evolved since then.
Mhm.
And what you're saying from your experience being in Lightning for so long and seeing where the tooling is now, where it's going to be, it's just like get in, get your fingernails dirty, you know, and start doing it, which I actually am going to start doing it. I'm gonna be dedicating even schedule's kinda crazy, but I'm going to be dedicating time to actually doing this because I need to tinker and learn this.
Mhm.
I'm decently, well versed in the whole mining world, but going all the way back to finding a job in the space, I do think concentration is key. Finding areas that you
Right.
really enjoy and really digging into, because I think you'll find more happiness, especially if you go to a Bitcoin company, because the grass is always greener at the other side. At the end of the day, it's work. At least enjoy the work and you're learning something about the part of Bitcoin you love.
Yeah, and, to tack on to that, a lot of Bitcoiners are like, "Well, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a programmer, my options are limited," and I disagree on that. If you've got a passion and if you've got the desire to tackle what you find the most fascinating and interesting, whether it be mining, lightning, wallets, I don't know, I can think of many merch like 3D printing, t-shirts,
Yeah.
design, whatever you got, like you can make something out of it.
I love that. I do wanna, talk about the meetup because I
Okay.
do think the meetup people who start meetups are some of the coolest people I've met in my life, and it's also a rare breed, like, we just start a meetup. So, like, I don't think it's doxing you, but you're now in
Sure.
the Houston area,
Mhm.
right? And you have the arguably the largest, if not the second largest meetup, Al's Lacrosse and Parker do in Houston, to Austin Bit Devs.
Mhm.
Um, but you decided to start another meetup in Houston. So I'm
Right.
curious to know your thought process there.
Yeah, so the big Houston meetup is really close to downtown. Houston's the fourth biggest city, I believe, in the country. So there's a lot of room in that city, and
Totally.
the main Houston meetup is awesome. Parker and everybody do a great job. It's really mining and oil and gas focused, which is makes sense. It's Houston, it's Texas, it's oil country, which is awesome. But I made a couple of friends there, and a lot of us live about 45 minutes to an hour north of that venue,
Oh,
and we wanted to make something a little bit more learning about Bitcoin from the basics. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring your neighbors. Let's just go learn something. So I made a couple of friends that live up near me at the big Houston meetup. They're just Bitcoiners, but nobody knows they're not on Twitter or anything, but they're super smart people and stuff. And they're like, you know what, we need to get this thing going. So we found out that the local library was open up till like 9 on the weekdays, which is
oh,
amazing. So they have conference rooms, and
how awesome is that?
yeah, it's great. They give you the projection. You can have a microphone if you want. It's like $5 or $10 plus your library card to use it. So it's amazing, and I think we could fit like 40 or 50 people in there if we need to.
A actual public utility for good.
I know,
Who
and
would have
that's like
thought?
the weird thing because I'm such a libertarian, but I'm just
Yeah.
like, it's kind of funny because there's multiple conference rooms, and sometimes people stick their head in that aren't for ours. Like we have the little Bitcoin sign out the door, but they still stick their head in, and we're like, yeah, we're the Bitcoin group, come in, and they're like, no, I'm looking for the Social Security meetup or something, and I'm like, well, we're better than that, right? That's
No,
actually
seriously,
happened.
come in. It's the same
Yeah,
thing, you
please
know?
come in, come in. So we do that for like an hour, and then there's like a local pub after that. So been trying to grow that out and just really just want to. We usually have a topic every time. So we talked about like the very first one was why it's important to get your Bitcoin off the exchanges and
Mhm.
how to feel comfortable doing that, your options of doing that, the difference between yeah,
Hot wallets and
hot
cold
wallets and
wallets,
cold wallets,
yeah, or co
and then we did like what people. I'm just thinking through my head, like, what questions do people ask? Like, well, what do I do with it? So that was like another one. Well, you could do Bit Refill, you could do like all this really cool stuff with it. How do I get paid in it? So we talked about Strike and Bitwage and these services. And uh, anyway, and then whatever we want to talk about. Last night we talked about a mom brought her like 12-year-old, and they just kinda, like, walked in, and they were just kinda like, "We wanna know about Bitcoin." And the kid was really smart, asking really great questions. We talked about Lightning and stuff. So that was really, really fun. So I'm definitely trying to build that out, try to, get more people to come to what we're calling the North Houston Bitcoin Club.
the North Houston Bitcoin Club.
Yeah.
Okay, and you guys have a meetup page. What's that?
We do. Yeah, you could.
We'll
Yeah,
put
it's
it in the
just.
show notes too, for sure.
Yep. So that's basically what it is on meetup.com too.
Okay.
And yeah, we're there. We got a Telegram group and stuff too. But yeah.
Well, rock on, Nate. This has been such a pleasure. I've learned quite a bit. I listen to all the pods, but this is one of those where I'm going to listen and stop and take more notes. Tom's got 2 pages of notes right now. Just some final thoughts, or like where people can find you.
Sure. Yeah. My tag on Twitter is beef or bacon, exactly how it's said. So BEFORBACON. One. There's a one at the end.
The number one.
The
Yep.
number one, because beef or bacon was taken, I think. I don't know where I thought of that. It was years ago. Anyway, yeah, so there's that. So I'm on Twitter. My shitpost ratio is probably 50-50. So
I think you've slowed down a little bit. I think you're more focused now.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just wake up in the morning and I'm either super angry or super happy.
What's that meme? You wake up and you chose violence, or something, whatever it is.
Anyway, so yeah, so I'm on there, and yeah, please try out Voltage if you want to. We're at
Yep.
voltage.cloud. No KYC, non-custodial. You get $10 of free credit for signing up, so there's no reason not to just kind of check it out.
Heck yeah. Shout out to Paul Miller. Shout out to Graham. Shout out to Kim. Shout out to, I think, Bobby,
Yep.
Alex. All these folks have rolled through Bitcoin Park. And this is like another selfish thing. It's like having like a dedicated space. It's pretty cool to see the folks that just roll through. So tonight at the meetup, which will be your first Nashville meetup, I'm excited for you to see the folks that you may be like, oh, we follow each other on Twitter and you're here now, which is pretty cool. And I can't thank you enough for making the trip up from Houston, away from your family, and to spend time with us. So thanks again, Nate, and we'll chat again soon, man.
Thanks, Rod. It was great.
Cheers. Hey, everyone. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Nate as much as I did. Following your passion and leveraging your skill set like Nate has to help Bitcoin grow is definitely an example worth following. If you're enjoying the pod and want to auto-magically stay up to date, please like and subscribe in your favorite podcasting app. And make sure auto download is on. This would also mean the world to me. So what else do I do in Bitcoin? I curate a morning email about Bitcoin at wakeupwithbitcoin.com. You can skim for 30 seconds or dig in for 30 minutes. The choice is yours and it's free, so consider joining. Lastly, come visit us in Nashville at Bitcoin Park. The Bitcoin community here in Nashville continues to grow and get stronger. We hinted at a number of events, workshops, and meetups. More to come on this, especially in 2023. So if you want to be the first to know, join our meetup page at bitcoinpark.co and check the show notes for this episode for a link to the Bitcoin Park Discord server that you can stay connected with us. Until next time.